Now, there's a reason why prisoners get put in solitary confinement, because this disconnection that they feel destabilizes their nervous system. And we need relationship with other humans in order to regulate and co-regulate with each other. And when we don't have that, or when we withdraw not to have it because it's chaos, it's uncertain, the world feels like it's falling apart, we activate our survival mechanism, which means we protect, we defend, we polarize, or we try and control and grip. And I think that the more we can talk about connection and disconnection, particularly when the world feels so bloody unstable and our nervous systems are all in protection mode, they're all contracting, we want to be able to regulate and lean into more connection than protection, which is what a lot of people are doing right now. Welcome to Limitless, the podcast for cycle breakers, change makers, and conscious leaders who are done performing, proving, and pleasing, and are ready to live, lead, and create from deep alignment. I'm your host, Fiona Walsh. Every 2 weeks, I hold space for real soul-expanding conversations with guests who are still in it. They're navigating their biggest fears, shedding old identities, letting go of patterns that no longer serve them, and rising into their limitless potential. Together, we share what it's really like to be human. Messy, raw, imperfect, and learning to own every part of ourselves, even the ones we've tried to keep neatly tucked away. We go deep into the work of coming home to yourself, getting out of your head, feeling safe in your body, letting go of old stories, and creating a life that's true to who you really are. Subscribing to Limitless is the best way to make sure you never miss an episode. So hit pause and tap follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Because this isn't about doing more. It's actually about remembering who you are. And that's what makes you limitless. Welcome to Limitless. Today's a solo episode, so it's just you and me. And I am so excited because today I am launching season 3 of Limitless. And season 2 was such an incredible chapter. And I'm going to talk about some of the key highlights from season 2. But I really want to start with what I'm anchoring season 3 into, which is one of my 3 personal values and something that I think that we all need more of right now based on the state of the world. And that is connection. So this is a theme for season 3. I want to talk about why and how we are all wired for connection as human beings, and share a little bit about my relationship with connection over the years. So I want you to pause and think, shut down your eyes if you can, wherever you are. When you hear the word connection, what first comes to mind? You might think family, friends, relationships, my loved one, my kids, my community. Now, when you think about connection, what's on your heart? You might have feelings of joy and happiness, love. You know, it's really interesting because in this time and space that we find ourselves in 2026, we're more digitally connected than we've ever been before. However, as you've all heard, we are way more lonely as a human race than we've ever been before. And division and fear and survival just seems to be rising and rising by the day, by the week at the moment. And it really has, this word connection has really been dropping into me since January, when I ran a retreat, which I'm going to speak about in a minute, because it's what we need more of right now. And we all need to be really stepping into it in a really intentional way. because when we focus intentionally on connection, we can really help regulate our nervous system and our stress response, which I know a lot of people are suffering with at the moment. Now, there's a reason why prisoners get put in solitary confinement, because this disconnection that they feel destabilizes their nervous system. And we need relationship with other humans in order to regulate and co-regulate with each other. And when we don't have that, or when we withdraw not to have it because it's chaos, it's uncertain, the world feels like it's falling apart, we activate our survival mechanism, which means we protect, we defend, we polarize, or we try and control and grip. And I think that the more we can talk about connection and disconnection, particularly when the world feels so bloody unstable and our nervous systems are all in protection mode, they're all contracting. We want to be able to regulate and lean into more connection than protection, which is what a lot of people are doing right now. And that goes for everyone. I mean, I try not to look at the videos or pictures online. I only read some news. And even when I have a detox from it, like I have recently, you still hear and see what's going on. So it is, even if you try and put some space between yourself and what's going on in other parts of the world, you really can't disconnect. It's almost impossible in this day and age. So season 2 showed us some really cool themes, and it was more about change makers and cycle breakers who had done the inner work, but they were then using that empowerment to create a movement or create a ripple effect broader than them. And some of the topics, some of the themes that came up that I just wanted to share was around, people spoke about when they felt stuck, they really noticed that they really went into protection mode and wanted to stay with what was safe, what was familiar. And that sometimes meant self-abandoning from what they knew was their truth or what they knew was their life's purpose. And how many of them had to take radical responsibility to make a choice in any given moment. Am I stepping towards safety and familiarity, or am I stepping towards my purpose and my truth? Am I stepping towards what makes me feel limited, caged in a prison? Or am I stepping towards this feeling of what is limitless, potential, possibility, freedom? And we explored the concept of freedom, that you need to experience and embody inner freedom to really get to know your inner world and release what's keeping you stuck, going back to those hard traumatic memories and doing some work around them, leaning into what am I avoiding? What am I pretending is not there? And really, really facing your fears. And once you connect and create that inner freedom, then the external freedom just starts to expand around you. And we also really talked about how you can't think your way into expansion. You can't use all the information and the knowledge and all the self-awareness that you've gathered from books and podcasts and talk therapy, because self-awareness is not enough if we don't feel safe in our bodies, if we're not able to embody change. We just add more information to the mental load and become way more self-aware of all of our stuff without actually releasing it from our system, our body. And so we talked a lot about how you can reclaim your power when you build inner safety. Season 3 is really going to focus on connection. And I'm so excited because it's one of my 3 core values. They are connection, curiosity, and integrity. And I've spoken about curiosity in other episodes, but I really haven't spoken a lot about connection. And I think what's really interesting for me is that I did my values work years ago, and it's really changed over time as I've changed. And I guess that makes sense, that as we evolve, how we make sense or meaning of the world changes, and how deep we go might change our perspective on who we're being, how we're showing up. And so when I first chose my value of connection, it was really around my love of people and building relationships and always having lots of people around me and being involved in lots of different things, helping others, pleasing, being needed, having really full social calendar. I used to love to go out like all the time. And I guess that's a side of, your 20s and maybe your 30s. But now in midlife, connection means quite a different thing to me. It's more about the depth of relationships. I have very little tolerance for small talk anymore. Like if people want to talk about the weather or bitch and gossip about other people, that's awesome. But I'm not going to be sitting in a conversation for more than like a couple of minutes if that's what it's anchored in. I want to hear how people are doing. I want to know what's on your mind. I want to know what's on your heart, because that's where the truth lies. We don't need to dance around the tricky stuff. And I've chosen work now where I get to have deep conversations on Limitless every couple of weeks. My coaching containers, we go so deep. People talk to every session. People are like, oh my God, we go into their subconscious. So we're going into memories and past experiences that they don't even remember necessarily. And so the depth that I have now got in my life is night and day to what it was 5 years ago. The depth in my nervous system awareness and the capacity that I've built has also had a huge impact on my ability to connect more with others, because if the more space that I can hold, the more I can hold others. And that was a real issue for me when I first started coaching and wanted to do this deeper work, because I was totally maxed out based on where we were in life at that stage. One of my kids had just started primary school and was really struggling. And I was on speed dial from the principal, being called up to the school multiple times a week. And I couldn't hold my job down. I couldn't hold my son, who needed me more than anything. And I was very much torn between these two worlds. I think also now connection for me is this willingness to be visible and be vulnerable and to really share where I'm at in real time. Even when I started the podcast, the first episode was very much a retrospective story of like what had happened to me. And in season 2, that was a real shift. I like jumped on the mic multiple times when I was in it. And I mean in it, where things were dumpster fire, chaos, so much uncertainty. I was triggered, activated. I wasn't at my like composed best. I was exhausted. One of them, the last one I recorded, I was so tired. I was solo parenting and I had a child with a bad broken leg, and another one sick home with the flu. And I was like, I'm just going to record an episode because I really want to show up authentically and really allow people to see me in my shit show, because that's what connection is all about. It's not about the composed view of yourself, the perfect one. It's about who you really are. And I was in the hospital actually a week or so ago with my daughter having her cast removed. So it was like the last stage of this broken leg journey. And we had to wait for quite a few hours to get a x-ray done in the public hospital system. And she was happy watching a show, and I had my phone there. And normally I would just be like, awesome, I've got time to I can do some social media posting. I can message back my client that had a question. I can do go straight into working and productive mode. And I had been thinking a lot about connection and how this might be the theme for season 3. And I actually put my phone away and struck up a conversation with the lady next to me in the waiting room. And I had we spoke for 30 or 40 minutes before she had to go in to have her x-ray. But it was I don't know, it just made my day. And it was, her story was so incredible. I actually would love to bring her on Limitless, but I didn't get her contact details. just to hear her story and hear where she was at and what she was struggling with and where her adult kids are at. And just to have this, like, I just got this window through connection and curiosity, my other value of like where she is at this point in her life. And it was such a deep conversation. And I really gleaned a lot of wisdom from her. And she was bloody funny. So it was a pretty funny conversation too. But one of the things that it reminded me of was like, I used to travel a lot. I used to go out a lot and used to go out socially a lot. And so I was always meeting new people. And so I feel like that muscle of mine hasn't been flexed or isn't as strong as it used to be, because once you have 3 kids, it's like there's not as much time. You're sort of connecting with them more and the school community, and not like with random people in a hospital waiting room or at a bar or something like that. And so, I'm going to be even more intentional this year in this season of Limitless, of really striking up conversations with people I don't know, and just going with a blank canvas to know that there is just so much to be learned and understood and appreciated in others when you lean in and hear their story. I think whenever we talk about a value like connection, it's important to talk about what it means to now and then to me. But I also think you need to look at the shadow side or the flip side. And what that teaches you around the importance of leaning into a value or something like connection. So I want to take you back 6 years when I was pregnant with twins, and I had a just turned 2-year-old toddler. And the twin pregnancy, shout out to all my all my twin mamas out there, really is hard to describe what you go through. Like physically, obviously people see your body change, and there's a lot of pain and sensation that is like way different to a single pregnancy. I mean, I by the end couldn't put my hands around my belly to give people an indication of like how large, your abdomen and stretches out. You have every pregnancy symptom under the sun. I didn't even know some of them until I was in it and experiencing them. So it really is like this marathon of endurance, it felt like. But it also was emotionally a really hard time as well, because you have so many more hormones in your body. You've got double to build 2 babies. And it also was a time, even though I was very busy at work, I was on this really cool new customer experience strategy program, and we were so busy launching it and doing all these activations and lots of human design and bringing people together in rooms. And I was facilitating huge workshops, and it was like I was really like involved with a lot of people every single day. And then I would obviously come home and then be mum to the toddler. And then, but it was in the evenings at nighttime, my other half was actually renovating our basement of our townhouse so that when the twins were born, our grandparents could all come and stay with us from Australia, because when you've got 3 kids under 2, you need help. It's a shit show. And so I remember lying in bed at night, like so uncomfortable, but also feeling really, really lonely. And I was not physically alone. I had like my toddler asleep meters away in his room, and my partner, who like is amazing and supportive, and he was downstairs. So proximity wise, people were close by, but emotionally I was really struggling. And I realized in that moment that I was quite disconnected from myself. And I remember when I went to an osteo to have some work done on my back, the first guy I saw told me my stress levels were through the roof, and that it was like they were at an unsafe level to be pregnant, and he was surprised that I was even having twins. And so his line was probably not the most compassionate, but I really wasn't in tune with I was in tune with my body and what it was going through, but I wasn't in tune with my nervous system and how much stress I had normalized to hold. And so what I realized in that moment, it was really this disconnection, not from having lots of people around me, because I was literally surrounded. It was more that I was disconnected from me. And And I think something interesting happens when we go into midlife which is sort of where I was moving towards at this time, is because connection shifts. It looks and feels different. Most people don't have the same social group of friends. And I know the friends that I've made in the last few years, I call them my fast friends, because you spend 3 weeks with them and they know more about you than your friends of 40 years. You go deeper in 3 weeks than you would in 30, 40 years. And it's not because of the time, it's because of how truthful you're being or how open you're being. And, when you made friends when you were younger, the connections you made, they might have been around proximity. It might have been around school or uni or your work. It might have been around history that you shared together. But as we are maturing and going into midlife, the new friends that you're tending to call in actually will match your emotional maturity and your emotional regulation. Quite often they're more values aligned. They will have a similar level of nervous system safety or a tolerance and capacity towards it. And we also bond in a different way because we're much sure about who we are. We're not pretending, performing, pleasing, which I know I spent a lot of time not really being sure who I was in my 20s and 30s and trying to be the right person for other people to like me or to fit in rather than to belong. And I think that that's a really beautiful shift that we make in midlife, is that we may not have the quantity, but we certainly have the quality when it comes to connections. And if you're listening and you're like, I'm in midlife, but my relationships and my connections feel pretty surface level. I don't really feel like I can be my full self. I always hold back part of me. I don't tell them about that part of my life because that's embarrassing. I don't want people to know about that. I'm a bit ashamed of that. I want you to ask yourself, how open am I being? And what am I not saying? What am I avoiding? Where am I not being fully visible and open? Because the depth of connection that you have with yourself and you share with others is what will be mirrored back to you. Every week, clients say things to me that they've never said out loud. But as soon as they say these things, their body will soften, their heart will open, something shifts. Their partners notice their change in them. They become more the clarity just sharpens. They're so much clearer. Those closest to them feel the difference because we're all full of stories and shame that if we're holding on to it and we're not telling people, it just gets worse. And connection starts with sharing your truth. So if you're feeling like your relationships are arm's distance or arm's length, have a look inward about how deeply you're connected to yourself and how you're able to share yourself with others. One of the things I think is really underrated is similar to what we discovered in season 2, that you need to find and create inner freedom before you can have external freedom. So you need to create inner connection before you can deepen your outer connections. So connection to self means about knowing when you're activated or triggered and really getting curious about why. Understanding where this comes from. Can you trace it back to your childhood? Having a better understanding of your nervous system. Understanding how to build capacity in your nervous system so you can hold more. So when you do get activated, you're able to stabilize and regulate faster. Don't stay in a spiral for half a day, 2 days, a whole week. And staying present when things get uncomfortable or when there's negative emotions that makes you want to run for the mountains. And when I did my Reconnection Retreat in Vancouver at the end of January, we really focused on reconnecting with our heart and our mind, our bodies, listening into sensations, feelings, thoughts, all the things. And it was called the Reconnection Retreat. So we started with self. And people arrived so stressed and strung out, total survival mode. And everyone left feeling this deep sense of inner peace and being grounded because we dropped into our bodies. We listened to ourselves. And one evening, they also connected in a way with other women that they hadn't necessarily done before because we talked about stuff that was on our heart. We talked about stuff that we were avoiding, what was getting in the way. The stuff we avoid, what we resist, persists. And so we talked about that stuff because once you put words to it, guess what? There's an accountability that you're going to do something about it because the words have been said out loud. And I am so excited that I'm bringing this retreat to Melbourne on March 29. I will put the link in the show notes so you can jump on and register. We will be covering mind body connection and doing some work so that you can actually start to really get in out of your mind and into your body, understanding a bit more about nervous system capacity. We're going to be building some capacity. We're going to be releasing stuff out of our nervous system in the moment so that we are then able to create capacity to call in more about what we are desiring in our lives. So please join me if you're in Melbourne and you're free on the afternoon of March the 29th when I am back there for Easter. So buckle up. This season is going to be so incredible. The guests that I have already recorded with are incredible connectors. They're connected to themselves. They have got so many great stories to share. And as the world at the moment feels so fractured, so broken, so chaotic, choosing connection is a radical act. And I want you all to start with choosing connection to yourself and also focus on sharing more with those around you if you're wanting more connection with the people in your life. Please join me for season 3. I really look forward to going on this next chapter and evolution of Limitless with you all. Much love. Thank you for tuning in to Limitless. If you enjoyed today's episode and love hearing the stories of courageous cycle breakers, I'd be grateful if you could leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Your feedback not only helps others discover the show, but it also amplifies our mission to unlock emotional freedom and true potential. Every review makes a difference in helping more people embrace their limitless life.